Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be discussing this full moon in Virgo, which is coming up on February 24th. So full moons in general are all about cleansing and clearing our energies and releasing what is no longer serving us or our highest good or our highest timeline. And so, as I mentioned, this full moon in particular is in Virgo. So, Virgos are all about organization, having things clean, having details, being service oriented, and especially about being practical and grounded, especially in our environments and day to day lives. So, for this full moon in particular, what I'm going to be doing and what I suggest can hopefully inspire you to do as well is to really be taking a practical approach to my cleansing and clearing. So typically for full moons, I do a more esoteric, so going to sound baths or saging or Palo Santo, like energetically getting everything clear, clearing out my stones. But for this one in particular, I'm really going to be focused on my actual home, car, my actual environments, the practicality of it. So, for example, making sure that there not a single dish that's dirty in my sink, right? Doing all of the dishes, making sure that all of the laundry is done, as well as getting to some of the cleaning that maybe doesn't get done regularly. So, for example, this would be a great time to start your spring cleaning of getting all the baseboards done, getting the ceiling fans done, all of these sort of things. Because, as I mentioned, Virgos love a clean home, they are super organized. So, another good thing to do is do some organization, especially around your house. Or, for example, if you want to keep it on the more esoteric side, things you maybe aren't necessarily organizing in the best way. So, for example, for all of your tarot decks and oracle cards, do you just throw them in a basket or just keep them on a bookshelf? How is a way that you can really keep them, one, energetically clear them, but then two, after you've done the energetic clearing, how can you make them look beautiful? Within my decks, I have a lot of Rebecca Campbell's in particular. I think I actually own every single one of her decks she's ever made. Not sponsored, but I'm just a huge fan. So one way that I could work on organizing my decks could actually be by author. And then that way all of my Rebecca Campbell's are right there next to each other. Or, for example, this could also be, to keep it on the witchy side of things, all of your journals or all of your books that you own. You could organize them in a number of ways to both be aesthetically pleasing, but also just to make your life a little bit easier at the end of the day. So, for example, author would be one way, or if they're journals, chronologically. For all of those categories, you could also do it in a color way that you like to do, whether it be rainbow or just like all of the lights and darks together, and then all of the different colors in a way that feels good to you. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be with regards to, the esoteric things like organizing your sage bundles and your dried herbs and your Palo Santo, but it could also be organizing in a more practical way. So, is your kitchen set up the way that really works for you? Is your fridge organized? Is your closet organized in a way where you wake up every morning and you can't wait to get dressed because you know everything in there are clothes that you love being in and that you know immediately, okay, this is where the shirts are. So again, it's not necessarily has to be this more esoteric way of organizing things, but really what are ways that you can organize your life using this Virgo full moon energy to set your life up to be more helpful. As well as this would be a great time to do an edit. For example, if there's some decks or books that you don't use at all, this would be a great time to donate those to a local store or library. So cleansing and clearing and editing and organizing, these are very great, down-to-earth, practical things that you can do for a Virgo full moon, because that is essentially one of Virgo's greatest strengths. And so you're really getting to work with not only the full moon energy of clearing and releasing, but also with the energy specifically of Virgo. Lastly, Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, who is a sign of communication. And knowing that this is a full moon and therefore is about releasing, this would also be a really great time to communicate about things that you want to release. So these could be people, places, or things. So for example, if this is a person that you want to release or aspects of that relationship, you don't necessarily need to actually send them the text, right? You could just write in your journal, these are the aspects that I want to release. So for example, taking on too much, being the one who always picks up the phone, that sort of thing. Or if you're planning on releasing a relationship, and this doesn't just have to be romantic, this could also be friendships, acquaintances, that sort of thing, you can write a letter to them and explain in the letter, and again, you don't need to send it, why you want to release this relationship and why it's not working for you. And, full moons aren't really about manifesting new things. That's more of a new moon energy. So if you want to manifest, that's up to you. But personally, I really just focus on, for the full moons, clearing things out. So I wouldn't necessarily finish the letter with, this is what I want to bring in. I would really just work on releasing. And this could also be things that aren't necessarily people, improving your health or increasing your abundance, increasing your prosperity. These are things you can also write a letter to, of things that you want to release. So for example, habits that are not in your best and highest frequency or timeline. So if you want to improve your health, what are the habits that you would like to release? And this is also a really good time of reflection, right? So the moon is full, so it's giving all of these beautiful insights and shedding light on things that maybe we hadn't realized. So this would also be a great time while you're journaling or writing these letters out to really dive deep into why you've been doing these habits or holding on to these relationships that really aren't in your highest good or in line with where you want to take your life, right? This is a really great time to really take stock of how maybe you've been doing a little bit of self-sabotaging and working on releasing this. Because the first step of really being able to release something in order to get into the new, so that by the time we're ready for the new moon cycle to really manifest and bring in this new life that we want, the first step is always recognition of why you're doing something. And it could be as simple or big, because this is actually quite big, is, childhood patternings. That one was hard. But childhood patterns, and no fault at all to your parents. They're also human, just trying to do the best that they could. But how were these instilled in you? And also society in general, right? How often do you pass by a magazine rack or see an ad on TV, and that's just going into your subconscious really without you being able to even notice that it's happening? So as I mentioned, this would be a really great time to take stock of some of these things, communicate it, use this Virgo communication energy to really write out and communicate things that you want to release. Just to recap, things you can do for this Virgo full moon are cleanse and clear in a practical way your space. The second thing is to do a bit of organizing. And the third thing is to communicate, not necessarily reaching out to someone, but you can do this by journaling. Things that you want to release this full moon. Comment below the things that you plan to do this full moon. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Happy witching!